everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be looking at all of my short story collections. I am somebody that really loves a good short story. I like them because they're easy to consume, they're easy to pick up, easy to enjoy, and also you don't have to finish them all in one sitting. So if you guys are also fans of anthologies and you're looking for new ones to add to your roster, I'm just going to show you the ones that I have, and hopefully you guys might find something that you're interested in as well. So these are all going to be different authors, different genres. The first one that I have is called The Wolf at the Door, and this is by Jean Wolfe. And this one is going to be a mix of short stories, poems, ephemera, and other little anecdotes that are all being put into this one collection. It's going to lend more towards fantasy, magical realism, a little bit of comedy, and it's clocking in at a little over 430 pages, and you have a whole bunch of different settings. Some are going to be taking place in the woods with a series of stories happening in the woods, some are going to be sci-fi with a series of stories happening in space, and so on. There are many short stories in this book, so you could pick and choose. You don't have to read them in order. Let me tell you a little more about it. The circus comes to town and a man gets to go to the stars. A young girl on vacation at the sea meets the man of her dreams, who just happens to be dead and an immortal pirate. A sword fighter pens his memoirs and finds his pen is in fact mightier than the sword. Welcome to Jean Wolfe's Playground, a place where genres blend and a genius's imagination straps you in for the ride of your life. The Wolf at the Door is a brand new collection from one of America's premier literary giants, showcasing some material that has been seen before. Short stories, yes, but also poems, essays, and ephemera that give us a window into the mind of a literary powerhouse whose worldview changed generations of readers' perceptions of the universe. So yeah, The Wolf at the Door, that's one that's on my list. The next one here is by Omer Friedlander, The Man Who Sold Air in the Holy Land. This is a collection of 11 short stories, and it takes place mostly in the Middle East. The Man Who Sold Air in the Holy Land announces the arrival of a natural-born storyteller of immense talent. Warm, poignant, delightfully whimsical, Omer Friedlander's gorgeously immersive and imaginative stories take you to the narrow limestone alleyways of Jerusalem, the desolate beauty of the Negev desert, and the sprawling orange groves of Jaffa, with characters that spring to vivid life. A divorced con artist and his daughter sell empty bottles of holy air to credulous tourists. A Lebanese Scheherazade enchants 3 young soldiers in a bombed-out Beirut radio station. A boy daringly rooftops at night, climbing steel cranes in scuffed sneakers, even as he reimagines the bravery of a Polish Jewish dancer during the Holocaust. An Israeli volunteer at a West Bank checkpoint mourns the death of her son, a soldier killed in Gaza. These stories render the intimate lives of people striving for connection. They are fairy tales turned on their head by the stakes of real life, where moments of fragile intimacy mix with comedy and notes of the absurd, told in prose of astonishing vividness that also demonstrates remarkable control and restraint. They have universal appeal to the heart. So I haven't read this one, but I am very excited to read it because it's just one of those books that really makes me feel like it could be gut-wrenching, but it could also be kind of cozy, and it's giving a little fantasy element. So yeah. This is The Man Who Sold Air in the Holy Land. The next book is a book that I picked up when I was in Australia in December, and this is called When There's Nowhere Else to Run. And this is a short story anthology by an Australian author named Murray Middleton. This actually happens to be a signed edition, which I picked up at a thrift store. It's got 14 stories. A survivor of Victoria's Black Saturday bushfires takes asylum with old friends in the Dandenong Ranges. An editor-in-chief drives his sister halfway around the country to an East Coast rehabilitation clinic. A single mother flies to Perth with her autistic son for one last holiday. A father at the end of his tether tries to survive the chaos of the Sydney Royal Easter Show. A group of young friends hire a luxury beach house in the final weeks of one of their lives. A postman hits a pedestrian and drives off into the night. When There's Nowhere Else to Run is a collection of stories about people who find their lives unraveling. They are teachers, lawyers, nurses, firemen, chefs, gamblers, war veterans, hard drinkers, adulterers, widows, and romantics, seeking refuge all across the country, from the wheat belt of Western Australia, the limestone desert of South Australia, the sugarcane towns of Queensland, and the hinterland of New South Wales to the coastline of Victoria. They discover that no matter how many thousands of kilometers they put between themselves and their transgressions, sometimes there's nowhere else to run. So I have always felt a sort of nostalgia when traveling to Australia and would really like to learn much more about the culture. So anyway, I picked up this book while I was visiting my sister who lives in Australia and and is an Australian citizen because she's been there so long. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about the culture and the writing and, things that can happen. I wanted to have like a little piece of Australia to take home with me, so to speak. So I picked up this one because it was like at a thrift store and it just looked really interesting to have a variety of different tales by an Australian author. Next up, I have a horror anthology, The Beast You Are by Paul Tremblay. So if you guys were here a couple of videos ago, I actually have not read Paul Tremblay yet, but I do like a horror anthology, or at least the idea of it, of anybody other than Stephen King. It's not because I don't like Stephen King. I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. I have 3 Stephen King horror anthologies, but I did want to try one written by a different author. So I have this one here, and it is coming in at 320 pages or thereabouts with 15 different stories in it. And I'll read you what it says on the back. No one in New York City knows where the House of Windows came from, but it's exponentially expanding beyond its foundation, frightening the once fascinated Manhattanites and consuming valuable Fifth Avenue real estate. Truth, lies, and perceptions spread confusion and mistrust as people debate the existence of an apocalypse at the blog at the end of the world. A middle schooler's younger brother takes solace in the dead thing to cope with their parents' separation and erratic substance-fueled behavior. Isolated, suffering from amnesia, and exhausted from physical therapy, a person regains their wits and strength just in time for the last conversation. Every 30 years, the animal citizens of Bivor enact a ritual without question, sacrificing one of their own to a monstrous creature in the woods, revealing the beast you are to a cat and dog whose lives and destinies are forever altered following the disturbance and horrific ceremony. So the blurb from the New York Times book review says, as reality slips and skitters into dark corners, writers like Tremblay keep trying to catch traces of it, and these collected tales, psychologically reflective and poignant, harrowing and surreal, are a masterpiece of literary horror and the author's limitless imagination. Now, having only been exposed myself to Stephen King thus far, I'm excited to see what a different horror anthologist has in store. So the next thing I want to show you is another signed edition. This is by Ken Liu. So here it is. This is something that I picked up at Indigo, and it is an anthology of short stories. So I have never read Ken Liu. We've established that already, and I think that by the time you guys see this video, I still will have not picked up anything that he's written. But I do have it in my because I like to pick up short story collections. I couldn't leave this one at the store. I think it was even the last copy that they had. But we'll read a bit of the dust jacket to let you guys know what kinds of stories are contained herein. From stories about time-traveling assassins to Black Mirror-esque tales of cryptocurrency and internet trolling to heartbreaking narratives of parent-child relationships, The Hidden Girl and Other Stories is a far-reaching work that explores topical themes from the present and a visionary look at humanity's future. This collection includes a selection of Liu's speculative fiction stories over the past 5 years, 17 of his best, plus a new novelette. In addition, it also features an excerpt from The Veiled Throne, the 3rd book in Liu's epic fantasy series, The Dandelion Dynasty. Okay, so that's actually really good to know because I have not read The Grace of Kings yet, so I'm probably going to want to skip that particular story because I don't want to have any spoilers. But yeah, this is The Hidden Girl and Other Stories. As you just heard, 17 tales of science fiction, Black Mirror-esque, little bit of fantasies, so definitely stories right up my alley. If you guys didn't know that this book existed, now you do, and you can go and find your own copy somewhere if you want. Next, in one of my eBay hauls, I came across Blue World by Robert McCammon. So it's one of these vintagey type covers. It's pocketbook size, and it is a short story collection of the horror vibe. So there are 13 short stories in this collection, and the back of the book says, in a church on the edge of San Francisco's red light district, a beautiful porn star weeps for her murdered friend. That night, an innocent young priest rises from his bed, lured into a dizzying realm of lust and violence where salvation lies far beyond the easy grasp of hell. Join horror master Robert R. McCammon on a breathtaking journey of the imagination. We will travel across a tortured land and peer into windows at lives that might be our own, he promises. In these stories, we might even see the end of the world, and we might sit on a front porch for a while and sip a glass of gasoline on a hot December day. Ugh. From the battlefields of a Vietnam veteran's memory to an old-time movie hero's search for a serial killer, from Halloween in a special town where the rules of trick-or-treat are written in blood, to a Georgia road where a wrong turn leads to a quivering nest of evil, Blue World is Robert McCammon at his terrifying best. So again, this came to me in one of my eBay hauls, and as you guys know, if you've been here before, if I come across a book that seems even remotely interesting, I'm going to keep it, set it aside, not resell it, and attempt to read it. And this book made the cut because it's a short story collection. So far we've got some Paul Tremblay, we've got Robert McCammon, and next up, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 Stephen King short story collections that I currently have. So we have talked about Skeleton Crew before on this channel, so let's just get this one out of the way. This one here has the single most haunting story that I have ever read. It's called Survivor Type, and you just need to read it, and that's all I'm going to say. Next, I have a copy of Salem's Lot and a copy of Night Shift, both of which I have never read. They're both short story collections, so appropriate for this video, but the reason that I have never read these is because of Survivor Type. And so, yeah, I have to get to these, but knowing that Stephen King himself is grossed out by Survivor Type from Skeleton Crew makes me feel like these stories probably will not be as disturbing. So I'm going to get to these ones, don't know when, but I'm glad to at least have them because, you know, if nothing else, it's content for this video. Next, we have a copy of The Ladies of Grace Adieu by Susanna Clarke, who is the author of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, as well as Piranesi and The Woods at Midwinter, or The Wood at Midwinter, which I don't like. You guys know that already. But this happens to be a short story collection from that author, and just based on the fact that I really enjoyed Piranesi, I will read this. So what's it about? Susanna Clarke's The Ladies of Grace Adieu is a spellbinding collection of stories brimming with all the ingredients of good fairy tales: petulant princesses, vengeful owls, ladies who pass their time embroidering terrible fates, endless paths in deep dark woods, and houses that never appear the same way twice. The heroines and heroes who must grapple with these problems include the Duke of Wellington, a conceited Regency clergyman, an 18th century Jewish doctor, and Mary, Queen of Scots, as well as beloved figures from Susanna's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, including Jonathan Strange himself and the Raven King. This is actually really good to know because I haven't read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell yet at the time that I'm recording this video, so maybe it's something I want to do before reading this one, because I think that this one is a much newer publication, whereas Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, I happen to know, is at least 20 years old. So I'm probably going to want to read that book, even though it's like on my list of most intimidating books. Yeah. So probably going to have to read that one before this one. I didn't know if it was necessarily going to go that way, but I guess it is. The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories invites readers into a world where charm is always tempered by eeriness and picaresque comedy is always darkened by the disturbing shadow of fairy. So this I'm certain I'm going to love, but I absolutely will have to read Jonathan Strange first to not kind of spoil it for myself with one of the stories in here, or be forced to skip it, which I don't want to do. Next, I have a copy of Love Like That by Emma Duffy Comperone. Comperoni? Sounds like it might be Italian. So this is a collection of 9 short stories. It's not a very long book. It is coming in at 210 pages. So the fact that it's a short book and it's a whole bunch of little stories makes it that much more accessible, because then you just read one story at a time and it should go relatively quickly. Whether diving into complicated relationships or wrestling with family ties, the girls and women who populate Love Like That, misfits and misanthropes, bickering sisters, responsible daughters, and unhappy wives discover what it means to get lost in love and do what it takes to find themselves again. So I guess coming of age type of stories. I don't really know more about it. I think I picked this one up at Book Outlet when they were having a sale, and because I was looking for short story anthologies, and it seemed like it could have a little bit of a thriller horror vibe, just like based on the cover. That's probably why I picked it up. But other than that, I don't really know much else about it. Anyway, I'll give it a go. And you know, that might be something that you're interested in. You can give it a go as well. And of course, if you guys have read this or any of the books that I have behind me, I'm definitely down for hearing your thoughts on which ones I should get to first. So just let me know. And then lastly on this list, I have Shit Cassandra Saw, which I got for a couple of different reasons. One, it is because of the cover, because I could just not say no to a cover this attractive. And secondly, it is a book of short stories. So Cassandra may have seen the future, but it doesn't mean she's resigned to telling the Trojans everything she knows. In this ebullient collection, virgins escape from being sacrificed, witches refuse to be burned, whores aren't ashamed, and every woman gets a chance to be a radioactive cockroach warrior who snaps back at catcallers. Gwen E. Kirby experiments with found structures, a Yelp review, a WikiHow article, which her fierce, irreverent narrators push against, showing how creativity within an enclosed space undermines and deconstructs the constraints themselves. When these women tell the stories of their triumphs as well as their pain, they emerge as funny, angry, loud, horny, lonely, strong protagonists who refuse to be secondary characters a moment longer. How could you not want to read this? Margaret Atwood meets Buffy in these funny, warm, and furious stories of women at their breaking points from Hellenic times to today. So I think that this could be an absolute riot. There's about a dozen tales in here, so yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way that this could go wrong. So let me know what you think about this collection of short stories. Are there any that you guys have read that you think that I should get to first? What are your thoughts about them? Are there any that you think you might be interested in picking up after seeing this video? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, I want to thank you guys so much for being here to hang out with me today. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you would like to hang out more. If you want to leave me a little comment and let me know that you were here, that would be great. You could leave me just an emoji, let's say a cat emoji, in the comments, and be sure to like the video as well. You can follow me on Instagram, and there are some other interesting links that are going to be in the description below if you guys want to go and check that out. And until next time, this is Zahava saying thank you so much for being here. I love you so much, and I'll see you again in the next one. Ciao for now.